is the best Spider-Man? I hate to interrupt your regular scheduled programming because I'm sure you're dying to know who Isaac says is the best Spider-Man, but you won't be able to because I deleted that footage. You heard that correctly. I accidentally, but permanently deleted that footage. So with that being said, I'm just gonna FaceTime Isaac real quickly so you guys can hear the truth of who is the best Spider-Man. The good people of YouTube want to know this lifelong question: who does Isaac Molina III think the best Spider-Man is, and why?
All right, so I think that my favorite portrayal of Spider-Man in the suit, Spider-Man in the costume of Spider-Man, not Peter Parker, not just any other character other than just Spider-Man. My favorite portrayal of him is in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Yes. Even though those
gotta say his name.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, thank you.
However, I want to say this as a caveat: those movies aren't my favorite movies. In fact, out of all of the three sagas, if I'm gonna say saga, there's the Sam Raimi films, the Mark Webb films that has the Andrew Garfield, and then there's the John Watt films that are still currently going and going strong. When it comes down to the movies themselves, the Andrew Garfield ones are my least favorite. However, as Spider-Man, I love the portrayal of Spider-Man because he's fun. And not just because he's fun, but because it gives off the essence of what the comic books has made Spider-Man to be. When he captures criminals, he pokes fun at them. When he's like going up and fighting the villains, he's making jokes. And so I felt like, especially in the Amazing Spider-Man Part 2, there were many moments where I felt like Spider-Man was just having a good time. That's one thing. Fighting villains. And one thing that stands out for me is when he first meets Electro in his Electro form, and he's like, Electro's like terrorizing, the city and town square, and next thing you know, Spider-Man washes him down with a water hose, and he's wearing a fireman hat. He loves it. Now there's a second scene that I wanted to bring up with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man that I feel was the best Spider-Man interaction with another civilian, which is when there's a little boy. He's carrying his little project, his school project. It's like a little windmill, and he's running away from bullies, and these bullies have destroyed this project. They're trying to beat the boy up, and then Spider-Man shows up, and the bullies run away, and he turns to the little boy and is just like excited. He's ecstatic about this project. Oh wow, you built this windmill, and oh, it's broken. Let me fix it up with my little web here, and then boom, as good as new. And he spins the windmill. He's like, you did this by yourself. I'm gonna go ahead and walk you home. And he's like super friendly. He does deliver the essence of being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
That's good. Why would you say the other two weren't your favorite, or number one? Why? Let me rephrase that. Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland, why are they not number one?
Tobey Maguire, as previously said, about him being the best Peter Parker, I don't think that Tobey did a good Spider-Man. I felt like his portrayal was just being Peter Parker in the suit. And then Tom Holland he's not my favorite portrayal. He's not my favorite portrayal. It's not like he's bad though. I feel like that Spider-Man, they really did. I think we talked about this earlier. It really did show his intelligence, in key moments in the films, especially in Far From Home. But I felt like the Andrew Garfield films spent some time with Andrew Garfield in New York, in the streets with the people, or the Tom Holland one, like, kind of does the opposite. They focus on key places, whether it's the school, in Homecoming, there's he goes to a party at a house. And then there's he fights villains out in the streets, but there's no real key moments of Tom Holland's Spider-Man swinging in through New York for an extended period of time, which we do have in the Sam Raimi films and the Mark Webb films. But in the John Watts films, it's less of those, which I'm not sure if they did that on purpose to sacrifice for the sake of story, or I don't know what it was, but that is a contributing factor for me on Spider-Man, is seeing him swing throughout New York City, and then Andrew Garfield, of course, has those key scenes where he is just super fun. He's hanging out with the little boy from school, trying to protect him as he's walking him home. And I feel like that is the essence of who Spider-Man is.
I love it. Sounds good. This is my third time actually hearing you say, because the first time we recorded the video, it cut off, but we were still talking. Second time, I deleted it. So third time's the charm that you say that Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. And so I'm actually going to end the call here, because we're going to continue on with our regular scheduled programming and let the people finish watching the video. So thank you so much, Isaac, for jumping on this call with me.
Of course. You have a good night, all right?
You too. Bye. All right, guys. The video cut off, so we're going to just jump right back in. Absolutely agree. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, hands down the best, only because you see that difference between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So even though Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, even though Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker is still the cool Mr. Cool Guy type thing, he's still a loner,
Right.
He still has his own issues. I feel like he's portrayed as somebody who's not heard. We've seen him having an kind of a back-to-back with Captain Stacy, Gwen's dad,
Right.
And even with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, he doesn't seem like he's being heard.
Right. Yes.
He's to himself, whatever. He's portrayed as a teenage kid who still has his own issues. He's still trying to figure himself out.
Yes.
Versus when he turns into Spider-Man, when he puts on the mask, he's this cocky, hilarious,
trash talker.
You mentioned that in one scene when he was spraying Dr. Electro, when he was spraying Electro, he has on a fireman outfit and all of that stuff. So he becomes funny and just invincible,
Right.
So you guys already know from the video, I truly appreciate the Amazing Spider-Man period. Okay. But I love the fact that you say that Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man, because like I said, he gets a lot of criticism,
right?
Unnecessary criticism, in my opinion. I don't really care about Tobey's Spider-Man because, like you said, it just feels like it's Peter Parker just wearing a mask. There's no contrast. There's no, there's not a difference being portrayed, in my opinion. And then Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I definitely think that's a close second. Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he's a great Spider-Man. Yes. But in my opinion, I still feel like it's Peter Parker with a mask. Not as much as Tobey's Peter Parker with a mask. But do you feel like there's a contrast between Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Peter Parker?
Not necessarily, but it feels a bit more natural because of the way he interacts with the individuals around him.
Okay.
So I don't think I said this before, but when it comes down to how Tom Holland's Peter Parker / Spider-Man, how he interacts with, let's say, Iron Man, is the typical starstruck interaction. Like he's talking to his hero, and but when he faces a villain like the Vulture, who is not necessarily a world domineering villain, he feels like, yo, this is the biggest thing, like ever. I'm the just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I stop thieves and stuff, and then here comes this guy on this big giant hoverboard, and he's killing people. And so the way he interacts with them is as if like I can see a high schooler would.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be here. I don't want to fight this guy, but I have to. And so I feel as if like the Peter Parker and the Spider-Man and Tom Holland's, they mesh very well. I don't think it was needed that there need to be two different characters.
Gotcha.
And I think that like you can kind of see that it's almost as if Peter Parker is trying to hide that he's Peter Parker in Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Whereas with Tobey, it's really more like he's still goofy and nerdy with the mask. Or out the mask, or without the mask. And so like it just feels, that's how I feel. And so like I almost feel like Tobey, his Peter Parker has no business wearing this Spider-Man mask, where Tom Holland is just like a teenager who is gifted, who's powerful, and he's just trying to make things right. As he was saying in Civil War when he was first introduced, he was just like, I mean, who's gonna fight for the little guy? So
that's good.
So that's kind of how it felt. Whereas Tobey's, it was just like, he's only going off of the mantra that his uncle gave him, which was, with great power comes great responsibility. It's just like, that's all you got as Spider-Man. He doesn't have any other like motivation to be Spider-Man. Like it just feels weird that like, with Tobey is like, all these things are happening to him that like he's getting fired because he's late and everything. That's because he's Spider-Man. Like he doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
So why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Peter has that, grounded baseline where it's like who's gonna fight for the little guy? I'm fighting for them.
Yeah.
So and you can see why.
Yeah.
He's Spider-Man.
I think out of all the Spider-Mans, I think Tom Holland, once again, even though Andrew's my favorite, I think Tom Holland, they do a really great job when he messes up. And I think that shows in the first film, Homecoming, when he goes on his own to try to, capture Vulture, like try to handle Vulture.
Yes.
And then Iron Man comes in, and you could see like this disappointment. Like Iron Man's like, what are you doing type stuff or whatever. And you could see the weight, how that guilt, weighs on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And I even think on when he gives Jake Mysterio, when he gives Jake's Mysterio the Edith glasses, and he's like, what was I thinking? Like Tony gave that to me. You could see just even the littlest things, like, man, this is still a kid, a teenager. He's aware of his huge responsibility. He's aware of his mistakes. Like, so I truly appreciate Tom's Spider-Man in that sense, that like you could relate to him as a human. Like you could relate to him even as a teenager. Like, wow, what am I doing? Maybe this is too big for me to do on my own. So I do appreciate that. And I don't think Andrew's Spider-Man or Tobey Spider-Man. I don't think Andrew Spider-Man or Tobey Spider-Man, you have that sense of man, at the end of the day, they're still human. Like, if you could think of any scenes, like,
I would say with Tobey's, yes, because Tobey, his Spider-Man is almost as if like throughout all the stories, he is going through human stuff.
Yes, I agree.
So like, even though we agree that the chemistry between him and Mary Jane is not there, and Mary Jane is a horrible person, toxic.
Horrible.
But with Toby's Peter Parker, I felt as if, and I said this earlier, that it was a drama
Yeah.
with horror elements and spilt into it, into the movies and action sequences. Which, by the way, this is aside, Sam Raimi is like, he's amazing for horror.
Yeah.
Like, he started out in horror. He
Yep.
did the Evil Dead movies, and those are his first films. And he's done a lot of other horror movies. And so when he does horror inside the Spider-Man films, that's what I appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
When you hear when the Green Goblin is in the scenes and you hear the people responding, it's horror that's coming out of their mouth. The screams are terrifying.
Yeah.
When the whole Doc Ock scene where he is first introduced as the villain Doc Ock, when he's like in the table and attacking all of the nurses and the doctors and everything, that scene is scary.
Yeah.
Like, when you first watch that, it's like there's no score. It's all special effects and sound engineering, and then you hear like the little things, people gnawing and scratching, stuff like that. Like, every little detail is horror elements that Sam Raimi does. And I just love that. I'm not gonna stop talking about that. And so, that being said, I felt as back to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, I feel that one's the most, out of that one and Andrew Garfield, I think out of those two, this one's the most human. I felt.
Yeah.
And then Tom Holland's is the close second for that one.
Okay, the most human. Okay, so, and when you're saying the most human, you could feel that you could relate to Spider-Man as a human.
So because with Tobey's, it's less about the relationship he has, but more about everything that's happened to him as a character. And so I feel like I can empathize with Tobey's Peter Parker.
Okay.
Aside from the lack of chemistry between him and Mary Jane,
terrible.
Tobey actually does an amazing job with making me feel what he feels. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of
Spider-Man.
As Peter Parker.
Okay.
So when he is like, when he's like, I love Mary Jane, but I can't tell her that I am Spider-Man, and I can't be with her because I'm Spider-Man, and so when I tell her that I don't love her, I feel that, and so she walks away and there's a teardrop from me. I feel that. I get that. Mary Jane is toxic. I get that too. But when Tobey Maguire is feeling that, his Peter Parker's feeling that, I feel it. Wow. Definitely. With Andrew Garfield's, I did not empathize at all. I feel.
As Peter Parker. Okay.
Because I feel like, I feel as if, like, even like the way him and Gwen Stacy first interact with each other, it's not like it was a hard thing for him.
Yeah.
She kind of was coming on to him.
Yeah.
And he was responding.
I
love
their relationship.
And I do too. And it was a beautiful chemistry. But at the end of the day, there wasn't anything that I can attach to emotionally with Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. That's how I felt.
So, I'm gonna disagree.
Please.
Because I felt, and I think I said it when we were discussing the Peter Parker, whatever. I felt like I could relate and empathize the most with Andrew's Peter Parker. Because Uncle Ben, we first saw him die with Toby.
Right.
Okay, so yes, that was sad, all of that jazz, but it seems like, in my opinion, if I could remember correctly, he took time off as Spider-Man, right? Toby's, did he take time off?
Not because of that.
Okay, so that's my thing.
Because he didn't become Spider-Man yet. Because there was a catalyst to become Spider-Man.
Look, thank you for saying that, because that even furthers my point, how I did not relate with Toby at all. So after Uncle Ben passes away, it's like, okay, he's heartbroken, he's sad, but there's no change in his personality. There's no change. He's just thinking about Mary. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't really relate to Toby's Spider-Man or Peter, whatever.
Yeah.
I just can't relate. But when Uncle Ben dies in The Amazing Spider-Man, even yourself, you say, like, you could tell that Peter Parker in The Amazing Spider-Man loved being Spider-Man.
Yes.
But when Uncle Ben dies...
In the Tobey Maguire one?
In the Andrew Garfield one.
In the Andrew Garfield one.
When Uncle Ben dies... If I'm getting this correct... No, when Gwen Stacy dies. When Gwen Stacy dies,
yes.
he stops being Spider-Man.
For like 5 months.
For
I think
5 months. He stops being Spider-Man because he's carrying that guilt, because he thinks it's his fault that she died. That was the love of his life.
Yep.
Like, so much has happened. Not only that Uncle Ben died, Captain Stacy died.
Yep.
A year later, Gwen Stacy dies.
Yes.
And so he was just like, and not only does he feel the guilt, because Captain Stacy told him in the first one, keep my daughter out of this.
Yeah.
And he does try, not really try. He's like, I made a promise to your dad, but I still love you, da da da. But when Gwen Stacy dies, he's like, I will no longer be Spider-Man. Because in a sense, he blames Spider-Man for her death.
Yeah.
So he stops being Spider-Man for 5 months. And you see a drastic change in his mood.
Yeah.
You see that he doesn't want any interaction with anyone. Aunt May can't talk to him. Like, she's concerned. Like, what is going? They did a phenomenal job with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, because at the end of the day, you still see his humanness. At the end of the day, even death affects Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Another person that they show that with is Tom Holland. Not in his own films, but let's say Endgame. He was Spider-Man in Endgame when Tony Stark's passes away, which does translate into Far From Home.
Yes.
His absence, Tony Stark's absence is felt.
It is felt.
By Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yes.
So Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, you see that there's some grieving, there's some guilt that they're carrying, there's some battle while they're Spider-Man.
Yes.
But Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, there's none of that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I can't relate to. There's no human.
There's no weight of responsibility.
Exactly.
For being Spider-Man. I think
exactly.
Is what we're trying to grasp, because like with what Toby lacks there is the weight of responsibility. With Andrews, he has that weight of responsibility when like he's trying to when he's in a conversation with Gwen Stacy. There's this pivotal point in their relationship, and it's like, oh, sirens, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And so then of course the feeling the guilt of Captain Spacey's death, feeling the guilt when Gwen Stacy dies. There's that weight of responsibility. Maybe I could have stopped that.
Yeah. That scene always gets to me to this day.
And then with Tom Holland's, it was like, I can't just be the neighborhood Spider-Man, because there's this impending doom that's happening in my neighborhood that is more than just car thieves and robbers, and nobody else is believing me, so I got to do this myself. That responsibility sort of like, it just comes, and he's just like, he feels like he's the only one that's willing to bear that responsibility.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I agree with you on that,
Yes.
Yes. So, we didn't talk about Miles Morales.
Ah, yes.
And
as Spider-Man.
I feel that it's fair to bring him up.
Let's bring him up. Yeah, he's Spider-Man for sure.
And like, I would. What would you think if he showed up too?
I was gonna ask you that question. You beat me to it. For number 3?
Yes.
I
mean, we're talking about universes and everything.
Yes. Let's talk about it. Okay, well, first off, do you think they're gonna bring Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man?
Oh yes. I will be disappointed if they didn't. I would be disappointed.
So I agree with you.
You have their villains.
You have
Villains. Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
Who like he's showed that he's excited.
Oh my god.
To be in the film.
Oh my god.
You have Alfred Molina.
I wish they would have surprised us with those villains. To be honest. Can you imagine?
I'm not sure because I feel like
I wouldn't be able to handle it.
I'm not sure if I would have been able to handle that as a shocker.
Yeah.
And then you got Jamie Foxx.
Oh my gosh.
You got
all of them. Sandman.
Sandman is in there.
All of them are in
And the Lizard is in there. That's right.
All
and
of
so
them.
you have all their villains.
Yeah.
Tom Holland's not going to face them alone.
Yeah.
Like and at this point I feel like Sony and Marvel are trolling us by just showing Tom Holland without showing Andrew Garfield and Toby. You know, like Alfred Molina straight up was like, "You're not Peter Parker." You know what I'm saying? And it's confirmed that he's playing the same exact character. It's like Sam Raimi even told him, and I heard this, where he's like, yeah, you're playing the same character. The same exact character that fell in the water.
Yeah.
You're playing that character as if he were to be transported.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's who he's playing.
Yeah.
So I feel as if, like, if all these villains are showing up, then we have to have Toby. We have to have Andrew. And my question is really, what would you think about if Miles showed up?
I was thinking about that.
Like if he showed up for like you know,
even a split second,
like a split second, or like he came and just like, you know, you have this black Spider-Man.
I was
come and save the day.
Listen, I would be excited first. I feel like they're gonna do one of two things. They're either gonna show us. They would show all three Spider-Mans in this movie, or they're gonna just show all the villains probably towards the end or something, and then part 2 would be all three Spider-Mans. Either way, I feel like we're gonna get all three Spider-Mans. But with Miles Morales, because I was thinking about that, I was like, how would they even do it? Would he still be animated, like the animated Miles Morales, or would he be
weird?
That would be weird. That would be weird. So I'm like, would they do a live action? Like, how would they?
I feel like they would have to do live action, and we'll have to introduce him as a new character. That's how I feel.
That would be insane, because that has been on my mind when I tell you, and I was going to ask you that very same question. I don't know how they would do it, because we know Miles Morales as animated.
Right.
So I don't know how that look. I mean, I think that would be freaking beastly, but
people want the Miles Morales live action though.
Like
before Into the Spider-Verse came, like, I was wanting a live action Miles Morales.
The same.
For a while. Then when they did the animated version, I was like, okay, I could take that.
I was disappointed when I first saw the trailer. I was like, Dad, why does he have to be animated?
Yep.
Why can't they do, can you imagine?
And of course they made a good film.
Oh my gosh. It was visually, it was astonishing. Can you imagine if that was like live action with those like near the same, visuals?
Yes.
But I really wish, because I feel like now all of it's going to be animated for Miles Morales. Like the second one obviously is animated. So whatever they do with Miles Morales, it has to be animated, which I'm sad about. Like I wish they would have done live action.
I almost feel like I wouldn't have any issues if he showed up live action now.
Like, oh no, I wouldn't have issues either. That would be great.
I feel as if like they can still do that and still have the animated. Because I did love the animated film, and I am actually looking forward to Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, I cannot wait.
I'm looking forward to it. Like for me, it's highly anticipated. But that being said, that still happens. I feel like he can still show up live action.
Hey.
And it be a new character. Like they can introduce,
like moving forward, Miles Morales live action.
Yeah, but then the question becomes like, now we have a live action Miles Morales and an animated one, and they both can be a good franchise. I don't know. I mean, this is my thoughts.
Hey, let's see. But speaking of Miles Morales, I know you've mentioned one time in a conversation we had that you believe he's the strongest of the Spider-Mans.
Yes.
Okay, why?
So, first of all, his powers. He has all the same powers as the traditional Spider-Man, right? And then more. He can turn invisible. He has the Venom Strike. and that venom strike will literally is volts of electricity. Like it's like so like. I was playing the game. I've played the Spider-Man game, Marvel Spider-Man on PlayStation 4, and then I've played the sequel. This is more of a spin-off game of Miles Morales. And in the game, granted, it's a game. In the game, the game starts off as Peter is the mentor and Miles is the mentee, and they're chasing after Rhino, who is this big tank of a monster, and they go and try to fight him. Peter gets knocked down. He's experienced. He's a little older, but he's not old. But he gets knocked down and he can't get back up. He's really beat badly by Rhino, and he's telling Miles, "Get out of here!
Yeah,
Get out of here!" Because he's a beast, right? Miles, and you're playing as Miles, goes and fights Rhino by himself. Not only that, he knocks him out. Out cold.
Wow.
With the venom punch.
Wow.
And this is Miles sort of discovering the fact that he has additional powers.
Wow.
He didn't know that he can do that. He did that on accident.
Wow.
And so I feel like, granted it's a game, I feel like it was a good representation of the character, of the Miles Morales character. Same thing with the movie, with the Into the Spider-Verse. Like he's sort of discovering his powers on accident, and he's still beating people up.
Yep.
So that being said, not only that, he's a teenager, right? Just like Peter Parker was, and he has all the same powers and more.
Yeah.
So I feel like Miles, like, literally is like the god of Spider-Man.
And in the video games, because you said Peter Parker is his mentor.
Yes.
So for Miles to be, because I'm assuming in the video games, Peter Parker is an adult and Miles is a teenager.
Yes.
So for him to be stronger than adult Spider-Man, adult Peter Parker,
Yes.
that's definitely saying something. So in the 3 films, who would you say is the strongest Spider-Man?
So as we see all the films that we have, the like Andrew Garfield, they don't really do him justice with his strength. He catches a car, from what I remember, and that's pretty much all you see. Really, it'll go between Tobey Maguire's and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. You see Tobey Maguire stop a train, and it's full of passengers. And so you can consider like how fast the train is going, and now he has to stop that within a certain amount of distance. But with Tom Holland, this is a whole big freight boat that got cut in half, and he's holding it together with his web.
Wow, yeah.
And so for me, I feel like Tom Holland's Spider-Man is physically strongest, and then Tobey's comes in close second.
I wonder if it's because Andrew, they just didn't have a scene where he is with the train but when I was watching all 7 films, I kind of liked how with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, even the smallest things, like him closing a door, the glass was shattered,
Yeah.
So it shows that like even with
It's like he's strong.
It's strong. But they didn't incorporate, so I'm assuming if there was like a big freight, train, or maybe he could handle it. I don't know.
Well, we won't know. We won't know. That's the thing.
That's the writer's fault. That's the writer's fault on that. But I can see that. I do love also how with both Tobey and Tom Holland's, when they both try to stop the freight the freight boat and the train, there was a struggle because Tobey's Spider-Man, he was exhausted to the point where the people had to bring him in and everything like that.
Yes.
And then Tom Holland, he couldn't even completely hold that.
That's true.
Iron Man had to come in with his machine.
Well, I mean, just holding
it for sure. That
is
I
a
can't
feat.
do that.
Like is a feat.
Yeah.
And then like Iron Man, of course, had come in to help to close it up.
Yeah.
But I think out of both scenes, my favorite out of the 2 would be the Tobey Maguire one.
Yes.
Because there's that instance where the people of New York come together. And they're like, we will not tell anybody, here's your mask. They see who he is. And we won't tell nobody, don't worry. And then they try to stand up to Doc Ock.
For him.
You know? So
And Doc Ock was like, get out my way.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you.
Before you ask me,
go ahead.
The same happened with Andrew Garfield, where the people of New York come together.
I saw that. It's not as
powerful. You don't
not
think?
as powerful as the Tobey Maguire one.
Okay.
That's how I felt. There was a similar scene where what was it, on the bridge?
No, when he was trying to get to Electro, and he swing across the town. And
he was trying to get to the lizard.
Was it the lizard?
Yeah, because it was the first film. He got shot in the leg by the cop. Captain Stacy's like, no, hold your fire. And then he's like limping across the building.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was a good scene. I still don't think it was as powerful.
Yeah, you're right, because his web, he was shooting his web and it wouldn't shoot or something, or something happened.
It just didn't reach the crane.
Yes, that was the first one. You're right.
Yeah. It wasn't as powerful as the Tobey Maguire, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I felt that the Tobey Maguire one was more intimate.
Yeah, I do agree. In that sense, I definitely agree. And then when it came to, I forgot to mention, when Andrew Spider-Man, how he related to that little boy. He gave that little boy hope, because at the end, the little boy was like, that moment when Andrew didn't want to be Spider-Man for those 5 months, that little boy came in.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was so powerful, because it shows that, man, Spider-Man is an influence to even the younger kids.
Yes.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man, like you said, he was like, who's going to fight for the little guys?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Tobey, there's no, except for that scene on the train.
Yeah.
But there's no, I don't feel like Tobey Spider-Man shows his appreciation for people.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Tobey Spider-Man's motivation...
It's
Mary Jane.
Oh my gosh, I hate that.
She's the reason why, like, her getting taken was the reason why he got his powers back.
Oh my gosh, I hate that. I really hate that. I hate that.
It wasn't about, like, trying to save the city.
He don't care about us.
You know, like it was really like, oh, Mary Jane got taken.
Who would you want? If Spider-Man existed in our universe, who would you want to be Spider-Man to save us? Like, who would you...
Probably Tom Holland.
Tom Holland? Spider-Man to save us?
Yes. Because he has, in my opinion, like he said earlier, he's looking out for the little guy. And so even though Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man loved being Spider-Man, I felt like Tom Holland's Spider-Man is like, he's looking out for everything. Like he's like, it's like, after school, I'm Spider-Man, So that's me. What about you?
That is hard. It definitely wouldn't be Tobey's, because I ain't Mary Jane. Shoot, it would not be Tobey, because I could just see myself saying, like, there's a building collapsing, but Mary Jane over there, like... I mean, there was a scene where it was like the kids or Mary Jane.
He saved them both.
But say Mary Jane wasn't close to the kids, because she was falling by where the kids, in the same proximity, whatever.
Right.
What if Mary Jane was like in Harlem?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I enjoyed that scene though.
Oh, did you?
Yes. The reason why is for the visuals though.
Oh,
the reason why is because, like, and that's all Sam Raimi right there. Yeah. Like when Green Goblin just dropped them both, and you see like the two different choices in his eyes. Yeah. Oh man, that's iconic. That's what I was talking about earlier when I'm talking about iconic shots.
Yeah.
That
I give
right
you
there,
that. I give you that.
You won't get that from any of the other Spider-Man films.
I give you that. Yeah.
So
I guess it's between Andrew or Tom's. Who, I don't know. Just not Tobey. Don't give me Tobey. I don't like Tobey's Spider-Man, period. I'm sorry. I just don't like the Spider-Man movies, period.
I was going to ask you, what, if there's one scene in any of the films that stands out as your number one scene.
Oh, man.
Which one would it be?
Can you go first? Because I have to think about it. Oh, my gosh. That is...
I think... I sent you a video earlier this week, too. I think that the scene where Tom Holland in Homecoming, Tom Holland is about to date.
The car scene.
That car scene. And like you have the Vulture there. Tom knows that he's the Vulture. Yes. And then but the daughter doesn't know any of them is like a counterpart,
Mm-hmm.
like, and the Vulture doesn't know that that Peter is Spider-Man. Like that's a tense scene.
It was so intense.
And the reason why I love it is because it is like a literal like battle for survival with words. So like it's not Spider-Man versus the Vulture physically.
Yeah.
It's not like, you know, I have to make a dire decision or anything. It's literally like I am fighting for my you know, like Peter is fighting to keep his identity a secret. And with subtext, not actual like, you know, text and you know, not actual dialogue.
Yeah.
It's between the words. The Vulture finds out that he's Spider-Man. And it's through his daughter. His daughter doesn't know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but with what she says about Peter,
like not
now
being there,
he knows.
Yeah.
And so the scene quickly goes from what if he finds out to what is he going to do now that he knows.
Yeah.
And so that was like, is one of my favorite scenes because it's a very tense scene.
Yeah.
It draws it out, you know. So I like a lot of filmmakers, they allude to Alfred Hitchcock. That Alfred Hitchcock talks about the difference between like suspense and shock.
Yeah.
And what he would say is the perspective of the bomb under the table. You know, you can have a scene where people are talking and it's a very boring scene, 10 minutes long, like why are they talking about baseball, this is so boring, and then boom, a bomb explodes from under the table. And you know, that would be the shock.
Yeah.
But he said take that same scene and you tell the audience that there is a bomb under the table that's going to go off in 5 minutes. Now, when they're talking about baseball, that baseball conversation is the most tense conversation. You guys need to get out of there.
Yeah.
Why are you guys talking about baseball?
Yeah.
And so that's what's happening in this scene in Spider-Man, where it's just like now, because Peter knows he's the Vulture, he's like, I don't know what to say right now, or you know, I gotta defend myself. Oh yeah, your party was fine, it was fun, but you were only there for like a second.
Yes. Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
like these things is like it was literally like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, going back and forth until finally, boom, the rubber band breaks.
Yeah, that scene was definitely intense. And one thing I love about the way, I love how you articulate things. Because like I said in the very beginning, we have very similar taste in movies and TV shows. But the way you articulate it, I'm just like, yes, that's exactly how I feel. I just didn't know how to say it. So for sure, when you sent me that video, because at first, when I first saw that scene, you know, I'm just like, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this girl needs to shut up. Like, hello, don't you know he's Spider-Man? Clearly, she doesn't know. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But no, but when he sent me that video, it was just like, man, this is true. This is they're going to their homecoming. They're just teenagers.
Innocent enough.
It's innocent.
Yeah.
Super innocent. But there's that tension.
Yes.
Because Peter Parker, it is a Peter Parker / Spider-Man versus Vulture / a dad. I don't know his name.
I forget the name.
Yeah. So you have, in a sense, like 4 characters, and like it's just intense. It is intense. And here you have this girl, she has no idea her dad is a villain. She loves her dad. She has a crush on this boy who she has no idea is Spider-Man. And she's just innocently enough saying, you weren't at the party, or you were at the party for like a few seconds. You weren't there when, you know, they were in that building and the elevator or whatever. Like, no, you were gone. Like, and his
you always disappear. Bro. That was the key phrase. You always disappear.
It was intense.
Yes.
It was intense. I was like, I do not like this girl. Like, oh my gosh. Like, shut up.
That final shot, too, where Vulture's looking in the
that's what I was just about to say.
Oh, that's what he said. Oh, yes. There you know.
Yes. So, I'm embarrassed to say my scene now, because it's nothing like yours is all like artistic.
But you're good. I mean, it's your scene. Gosh. It's your scene.
I feel like, guess what my scene is. I feel like you would know what my scene is.
What is it?
Guess.
I can't. I don't want to.
Out of all 7.
I have 7 films. You want me to guess one?
Yeah, because I feel like I talked about it so often. I feel
Is it the crane sequence? No? Okay.
That's horrible.
I felt like that was the most obvious though.
No.
Which one is it?
Gwen's death.
That's your favorite scene?
That's my favorite scene.
That's the last thing that I would have guessed.
The reason why it's my favorite scene, one, can I just say, and I literally think about this all the time. So in Tobey's Spider-Man, Mary Jane, I'm sick of directors doing this. I'm sick of directors when somebody is scared, they just scream for 20 seconds. Like that's not realistic to me. When we're scared, we're like or like you know, whatever. But we're not like no.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane, she screams.
Yes.
She's a screamer.
Very.
Whatever.
Yes.
So with Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy, when she was dying, she did not scream. She does not scream at all. There's no sound effects except for like, you know,
the score.
The score, you know, and the visuals. All we see
slow motion
are the clocks, what's it called? Falling.
I have no idea what those are called.
What are they called? I don't know what they're called. But like you could hear the spider web like shooting to get Gwen. She is not screaming at all. What you do see is her face of horror. Yeah. She knows in that moment, I don't think Spider-Man could save me from this. Like you could see it in her face. I am going to die.
That scene was
intense.
Yes, it was intense.
It was
poetic too.
It was that's why
it was poetic.
That's why I love it. It was poetic. You see even Spider-Man, he's fearful. Like am I going to be able to save her? Yes. And what's insane about that scene, of course, is a tragic. I feel like that's the most tragic scene out of all the Spider-Man films. That is such a tragedy outside of course, Uncle Ben. But we've seen Uncle Ben die in the first one. Like, we know it's coming. Yes. But Gwen Stacy, even though it's in the comics, you know she's going to die. If you haven't read the comics, you don't know she's going to die. Right. But prior to that scene, of course, Spider-Man still has that promise that he made to Captain Stacy, like, keep my daughter out of this. Yep. He tried to have Gwen, you know, he shot a spider web on the car trunk to keep her from moving or whatever. Yes. So when he sees her come, he was like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. You have to go. Yep. And he says it with urgency. He was like, what are you doing? And I was even angry, like, Gwen, girl, what you doing?
Why are you there?
But even though she does help him, unfortunately, he doesn't. They don't know that he's gonna leave empty-handed. That you know Gwen's gonna die, whatever. But anyway, all I could think about is her facial expression. Like she doesn't scream. She just has her eyes are just like super big. Like she has no words. She's speechless. She dies, and then when her neck snaps, that they actually left that sound effect. Like you hear it snap. Yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, that girl's dead. Yep. And when I first saw the movie, in my head, I was like, there is no way. Because, you know, sometimes they change the movie, even though if it's in the comics, they change the movie. I'm like, there's no way she's dead. She ain't gonna die. There's no way she's dead.
After hearing that next snap?
I know. But what did it for me, the confirmation, because even Toby...
Because the next snap and then her head... the head hit the concrete.
But the blood, that little single trace of blood coming out her nose, I'm like, she's dead.
If you haven't had a hint.
But I was hopeful. I was like, there's no way, please. Don't kill. But that trace of blood on my dad, she's gone. So that was my favorite, even though it kills me to this day. Mm-hmm. Kills me to this day. And the after effects that he didn't want to be, you know, Spider-Man for 5 months. And man, that just really, but it's poetic. It's beautiful. It's dark, you know, but there's no screaming. There's no, you know, none of that. Yes. And
they treated that scene well.
Well,
yeah, they did that scene with love. They did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who's your favorite villain?
Favorite villain, will have to be between the Doc Ock and Green Goblin.
Which one?
Willem Dafoe's
yes,
Green
that's
Goblin.
Important to know.
Yeah, because Harry Osborn's Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man did not do it for me whatsoever.
At all.
But I think that Willem Dafoe's portrayal of both Norman Osborn and Green Goblin And we're talking about two different characters here in the same scene, and he's talking to himself in the mirror. I felt like that was done so well.
And I love that they showed it, that he was talking to himself.
Yes, and sometimes it'll go back and forth between the reflection and himself, and then there are times where it's just one shot with the reflection. But like I loved his portrayal. The reason why he's not like, I may have said that he was number one earlier when me and you spoke earlier, but I think for me he's not number one because of his motivation. He doesn't have a specific goal that he's after other than teaming up with Spider-Man. Because let's say he did team up with Spider-Man, what are they gonna do now?
After,
What is the goal?
Yeah.
You know, he talked about like, oh, we'd be powerful and, you know, we would be in control. Nobody can stop us. And it's like, but stop you from what? You know, that's kind of like my thing as to why he's not number one.
Okay.
My number one is gonna have to be Doc Ock.
Why?
Because he was at one point in the movie, he was sane, had everything together, was married to his wonderful wife that supported him, and like they were in love with each other, and then he went to lose everything at the same time, including his wife, and then he became a totally different character because of those things. And then you have his inner self that's at war with each other, with the arms, the mechanical arms. They kind of had their own personality. And they kind of like go against his inner self. And so like now it's just like, you know, I gotta finish what I started. The only thing I have left is to finish what I started with giving New York the natural resources that it needs. And so, like, him going after that, regardless of whoever stands in the way, I think makes him a good villain.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, even when he recognizes Peter Parker as Spider-Man, he's just like, oh, Peter. Intelligent but lazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like, and so, like, I felt like that's what made him a good villain. Yeah. The complications, I think, make good villains.
Good villains.
You know what I'm saying?
But I also love villains who are, I guess, crazy in a sense. Like you said with Green Goblin, like, what is his goal? I feel like he's psychologically, like, he's out of his mind. And we kind of see that with that between him and Norman. Like, this man is crazy. Yeah. Like, he's out of his mind. And so I feel like when a villain loses control even over himself psychologically, they like, I think of Joker the same way. Like, there's no stopping him. He killed himself. You know, his thing impaired him. You know, the Green Goblin, whatever. But I'm just like, I truly appreciate a villain who's a little bit more like, there's no control. Like, he does not care. Right. With Dr. Ock, you know, it's more of a, he becomes a villain. He lost his wife. Like, you know, I feel like that's what truly made him a villain. He lost the love of his life. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. Right. But in the end, you kind of see, like, I have to destroy this. You know, like, I have to destroy this weapon. Like, I'm weaponizing my home, and all of this is dangerous. Like, you know. So I'm like, oh, okay, he's a villain with a heart at the end of the day. Yeah. But Green Goblin, I cannot wait to see him in oh my God.
I feel that way about all of them, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, no, I can't wait to see all of them. But once again, when a villain loses himself to he or she can't even control, like, they're lost psychologically, I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be good, because they don't care about anything. They have the freedom to do whatever. How do you feel about who would you say is the weakest villain?
Ooh, the weakest villain? Venom's portrayal is my least favorite.
That just hit because
Venom's portrayal in Spider-Man 3.
I forgot all about that. That's how bad it was. I forgot.
Like he was. It was as if like they had a story, And I kind of know the backstory to the why he's there. I mean, the producers wanted Venom there,
Yeah.
and Sam Raimi didn't want him there. And you can feel that when you watch the films. You know, you can feel that he was going after something with Harry.
Yeah.
You can feel that he was trying to go after something with Sandman. Venom was literally like, you know, what are you? I thought it was also weird that when they did the meteorite thing, like, and it was like, you know, Peter and Mary Jane happened to be there in an evening picnic or something. They happen to be there where Venom comes up and he attaches to the motorbike, and it's just like every single one of them. The one person that was there was Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Who is Spider-Man.
Yeah. Happens. I agree. And it's so, I agree. I forgot that Venom was even in this. Listen, I've mentioned before, Venom and Carnage are my absolute, probably one of my two favorite absolute villains in the Marvel, universe. Yeah. So I was so excited to see Spider-Man 3 when it first came out because of Venom. Mm-hmm. And I left I was questioning life. Like, what did I just see? Like, how dare you, Sam? I don't forgive you. Well, but you said Sam didn't win.
I don't think it was Sam's fault.
Okay, Sam.
I think it was producers, because they were demanding that Venom be in the film.
It was horrible. Do you think because Venom 1 and Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, came out, do you think there's a possibility they're gonna add that to the MCU for Spider-Man?
I think that they're leading up to. I don't know if they're going to be added to the MCU, but I definitely think that Tom Holland's Spider-Man will be added to them. They're already planning 3 more films, so which is way more than what we got before. This is like literally the farthest we've gone in any of the Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
We have a 3rd film, which is potentially going to be an amazing film, and we have 3 planned films.
Yeah, I'm excited. You got your tickets, right?
I did not yet.
I literally took work off to go watch No Way Home.
So here's the thing about me. I love going to the theaters. Mm-hmm. I don't like packed movie theaters.
Okay.
So like,
you're gonna have to be off of social media for a good minute.
I'm not gonna try and stay away from the film.
Okay.
I definitely want to see it soon.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, but you're right. I'm gonna be ghost on the first few nights that the film has been released.
I'm gonna go see it Sunday. So the movie No Way Home comes out December 17th, Friday, December 17th. I'm going on Sunday. I don't know when you're going.
I will try to go Sunday.
Originally I was gonna go on Monday because I took work off specifically for this movie. I was like, I can't wait that long. I'm gonna go Sunday. So
I might have to call in sick.
Oh, hopefully your boss doesn't see this. No, but no. So we're gonna wrap it up. So you heard it today that the best Peter Parker officially,
Toby, in my opinion,
and the best Spider-Man officially,
Andrew.
I'm so excited because people talk so much crap about Andrew Garfield. So much crap, but
I will add though that Tom Holland's is a good mix.
It's a good mix. I absolutely, and we cannot forget Miles Morales.
Yeah, Miles Morales
Spider-Man
is the best.
The best. And actually, I want to shout out Entertainment for adding Miles Morales.
Yes.
Anyone can wear a mask. Super dope. But before we get off, I actually have a gift for you. Christmas is just around the corner. We got Spider-Man. We're just giving.
You did not have to do that.
Well, I did anyway. So, it's the red bag over here. I'm going to scoop everything out. Hopefully you don't have this already.
Do you want me to open it in front of the camera?
You go open it in front of the camera. Let the people know what you got.
Oh my gosh. Yes, this is good. Yes. I don't have this. I don't have any of these.
Good. So we got everybody on there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You did not have to get me this.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad to get you that. But thank you so much for jumping on this episode with me, for talking about all things Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please comment below who you think is the best Peter Parker and who you think is the best Spider-Man and why. And please don't forget to subscribe. Bye.
Bye.